Welcome to the final lesson where we create a conversation with the divine using a combination of several different symbols that we've explored thus far, and maybe adding additional symbols. And so the serpent is by far my very favorite symbol, and I'm creating a portal shape and a big balance shape. And I'm starting out, I have a piece of canvas paper. So it's like working on canvas. It has the texture, but it's just a thick piece of paper. And it comes in a pack. And it's nice to use mixed media, especially acrylic paint on a canvas or canvas paper. So decide on what kind of material you're going to be painting on, what size you like. Make sure to make some sketches and really first consider what kind of conversation you'd like to have with these symbols. And make lots of sketches, maybe write some notes, and then allow yourself to arrive at the final piece with a little bit of intention, a little bit of preparation. And you can draw it out beforehand with a pencil, or you can just go for it like I'm doing with some orange and gold watercolor. And most of this is going to be covered up, so this would be considered like an underpainting. So now I'm adding some greens and that parchment color that is sort of a greenish gray. And I'm refining this loose underpainting and allowing the shapes to do a little bit more of what I really want them to do. And I stay pretty painterly. I'm not rigid. I'm adding some drips here. So I'm really allowing myself to play and get messy because I want this piece to really feel alive and expressive. And sometimes I just love painting messy, which I don't know if I've shown you in this course yet. So honoring the wild uncertainty of mark making and allowing for layering to occur. I am using something to make a circle, and now I'm mixing some pink and white together. So I moved to acrylic paint from watercolor. So I only use the watercolor to paint my images on. So I've got the serpent, I've got the flames, I've got the portal, I've got the balance symbol, and then in the lower left, I have some root pattern. And I allow myself to fully play here and spend some time bringing all of these different elements to life. Sometimes I use a little bit of water to thin out the color. So I do have some drying times between my colors. So I had a little bit of that golden green with water, and now I'm using some turquoise and some green acrylic, a little bit of a plum color in the craft paint. Got a lot of different brushes on hand because I like to kind of switch it up and have a variety of sizes. So that turquoise and the green and the plum mixed together is creating a really dark value. So thinking about your color palette, thinking about a nice range of value depending on if you want a high contrast or a low contrast, and allowing for shadows and highlights to allow things to pop forward and set back in space. And this stays pretty graphic, pretty flat. I'm not doing a lot of rendering here. It's more of a design, and I'm not really worried about the snake I'm not worried about anything looking realistic. And I'm just allowing myself to play with the symbols in my own style. And so maybe you've come up with a style of drawing or painting that is speaking to you and allowing you to express yourself in a unique way. Maybe you are using a lot of tracing and taking elements that you're finding and just bringing them together. That's all good. It's important to make room for experimenting with, things that you might want to try and see what it looks like. And of course, if you're unsure, just try it on a sketch piece of paper beforehand so that you feel a little bit more confident. So I added some white to that dark green and then some brown to get that lighter turquoise color. And now I've created a little bit lighter of the plum color. So the plum with some white. And now once again, I am trying to refine this circle, and then I painted it with the plum color to really have it stand out. So now I've got sort of a mustard golden yellow and some white, and I'm combining that with a little bit of plum and a little bit of the brown or tan. And then I use that as a highlight. Building up the flames, which are still mostly in that watercolor that I began with. And then, like I do when I have a color, I go around and see what other parts of the painting that color needs to be in to create some unity. Now I'm watering down that lighter turquoise color and bringing it around, being really painterly, doing some blending, allowing some brush strokes to show, and then picking up that color in the center to pop that shape forward a little bit more, playing with the balance shape a little bit more. And I just poured white paint right on that corner, and I'm just letting it be really expressive. Now I'm adding a little bit of that yellowish gold. And now I'm coming in with white with just a little bit of the gold color left. So it's mostly white. And I'm working that as the lightest highlight in the piece, just moving around, allowing for that wabi-sabi effect that, nothing needs to look perfect or be too rigid, just allowing for the flow to take me and allow for inconsistencies in maybe the line or just having more of a mess and allowing it to stick around, which can be difficult, if you like everything nice and neat. Sometimes it's fun to push yourself into different ways of creating just to see how you feel and how it makes you feel and how it changes the symbols that you're working with. So there's lots of mixing going on. Now I'm using some bright yellow and some light pink to create a brighter orange. And that is really going to have those flames pop. And for me, I use the snake moving through flame portals a lot in my imagery. And the conversation for me is that we move through life, and sometimes events happen where we can really feel like we're getting burned, and it's really difficult and it's frustrating and we have a hard time and we can't get over it. And then sometimes we move through these really difficult situations and we just kind of let those situations become portals for rebirth. And the serpent coming through the flame portals came through to me very clearly as a vision in the beginning of the COVID pandemic. So it was in about, mid 2020. And the symbol essentially told me, it was a conversation I had with this imagery. And when I made it, it told me that I had the choice to move through these portals of difficulty with a clear view that rebirth was going to happen on the other side. Like I was going to come through and be reborn and shedding the past like the serpent does and arriving in the present moment, healed and full of beautiful Shakti energy. And so this combination for me it's a conversation that I come back to because it's important to remember, right? So having these conversations with our symbols, allowing them to speak to us, or, however you're receiving the guidance from these symbols, it can be really, really beautiful, and it can really help us in our lives if we need guidance. So everything's looking like it's coming together. Now everything is dry. It's a different part of the day. And I'm ready to add some gold leaf. And so I'm using the Mona Lisa adhesive glue with a little brush. And I am choosing the areas that I want to add the gold leafing to. And this is really going to be the icing on top for this painting. I'm not using any paint pens or gel pens. I'm really allowing the gold leaf to be what creates that, pop. So I really take my time kind of looking around the piece and seeing where I want the gold to be. I don't want it to be super overwhelming, but enough so that it really stands out especially when you're physically in the space of the painting and moving around the painting. It really does activate the symbols and intensify the piece in a beautiful way. The gold leaf glue needs a full 25 minutes to dry. So this is 25 minutes after I finish gluing. And I'm using a brush to set the gold leaf on the glue. And it's pretty sticky on the hands, and it will tarnish if the oils of your fingers get on it. And because this piece is so expressive and painterly, I'm not really as worried about it. Sometimes I'm really careful about not letting the gold leaf touch my fingers, and other times I'm not. It just depends on what kind of piece it is and how sacred I feel it is. So ripping little pieces off, trying to remember where I put all of the glue, and just taking my time with this process. So first I lay down all the leafing, and then once everything's laid down, then I use a larger, softer brush and brush everything off. So now everything's set on there, and now I have the soft brush that I am using to remove the excess gold leaf. And this also takes some practice, and you may have to repaint certain areas if for some reason the glue didn't set correctly, which is fine. I think this is a really enjoyable process, so I definitely recommend trying the Mona Lisa metal leafing, and it comes in all kinds of different metallics. And so here's the conversation with the divine. Enjoy this lesson. Thank you.